Hello, everyone, and welcome to Why We Love the World of Darkness. I am your host for this panel. My name's Kelly. I use he and him, and I just had some coffee finally kick in, so I'm actually present now. Mwah! Sucks to be you. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. We are going to talk about the World of Darkness, Vampire the Masquerade, why we love it, all of those game lines there, as well as Chronicles of Darkness, because I didn't let Corbin feel left out. We're going to talk about Vampire the Requiem, and I'm going to talk about a book that I just finished that you can buy soon as Sam finishes the art. I'm watching you. All right, so let's go around in a big circle and let's introduce ourselves. And as we have questions, we can do this popcorn style. But to prevent interruptions, if you have something you'd like to add to a subject or jump in, maybe give me a show, like raise a hand, raise a finger, raise an eyebrow, so that we're not just talking over each other. It looks like we are going to have a lot of fun with this, and I'm very excited because you're all amazing. But let's find out who's amazing directly to my left. Hi, Chris. How's it going?
Oh, what? I'm next.
You're next. It looked like you were crawling out of your panel for a second. It was pretty interesting.
I'm Chris. You can find me on Dork Tales and also on Dork Tales, and sometimes exclusively on Dork Tales. I am go by Diggyblog in the chat and on the Discord, and I'm excited to be here. I was actually going to be in a panel a couple ago, but I was allowed to take a nap. So that was great. I'm here for it
because you're a new dad. You know, you gotta take a nap.
Yeah. He's getting so big.
Oh my God.
He's like just over 2 months now. It's the growth is like what?
I'm gonna keep the segues going. So also over 2 months is Robin.
What? Over 2 months?
You are, aren't you? Otherwise, having you on the channel is problematic. Especially for the plots we've ran.
I am over 2 months. I am also Robin. I use she, her pronouns. I am second gen gamer in the chat. And you can find me mostly here on Dork Tales. I am super excited that my brain is going too fast for my mouth. Anyways, love me some World of Darkness. I am a relatively new player in it, but I am been jumping in head first, feet first, mage first. Anyways, doves.
Devil and the Doves. Thank you very much for the resub. All right, down to Corbin, the awkward GM.
Hi, I'm the awkward GM Corbin. You can find me on YouTube at the awkward GM and on Onyx Path's Twitch streams on Mondays at 5 o'clock for the beginner's guide. My pronouns are he, him, and I've only really covered Chronicles of Darkness, also known as the New World of Darkness, though I am putting up a Patreon goal in the future to cover Old World of Darkness or Classic World of Darkness.
World of Darkness Classic, like Coke Classic. Super classic. Speaking of classic, Travis, you're a classic. You're like a muscle car, man.
I'm definitely an antique. Yes, my name is Travis Legg. My pronouns are he and they. When I'm not running games, I'm writing them. I think that's all I normally say. When I'm not here, I'm often at the Onyx Path channel on Twitch, running games and whatnot. And I also run games over at Roll for Seduction.
Nice. And finally, last but not least, my OG player, the one who's been with me through thick and thin, Jen. I've killed how many of your World of Darkness characters over the years?
So many.
Well, technically, in the mage cases, you killed them yourself with Paradox.
This is true. But hey, I'm Jen. My pronouns are she, her, and I almost rolled right into a World of Darkness intro going about Josephine, but you can find me here on Dork Tales. I'm Kelly Daniels in the chat and in the Discord. And you can also find me on my brand new baby little podcast, Paradox, MH the Ascension podcast, that just dropped its 3rd episode yesterday. So
it's so
exciting.
Good. It's
a really good podcast. Jen has one of the best podcast voices. It's really good. I've known you for so long that when I listen to a copy of the podcast, you talking about Mage, and you just talking to you, I'm like, oh yeah, Jen has a nice voice. But when I listen to your intro, it's like, holy shit, this is sultry. What the hell? It was like, oh god, it just blows my mind.
Don't act so surprised. You knew it would be.
I knew Jen was sexy. Ah, damn it. Stupid sexy Jen. All of your stuff is coming up sexy this year, by the way, Jen. Your Radiant Citadel character, your podcast, everything's just too sexy. You got to tone it down for the standards.
I refuse.
No.
Good.
Own
How
it.
dare you tone down Jen's sexy? No.
I just was
And
doing it for
also-
my own. Yeah. I was doing it because I was afraid of her feminine power. Like, you know, all pastors in this town where you're not allowed to dance. I don't know. I was trying to do a Footloose reference. So, folks, tonight we are talking about the World of Darkness, why we love it, yeah, why do we love it? I love it because World of Darkness was the first game that I ever really played. I played 2 sessions of Shadowrun and then went straight into a Mage the Ascension campaign Chronicle. I've been doing way too much D&D these days, sorry. And that was my introduction to role-playing, actually. I went to college and tried to get into some games, and all that we had was some Mage the Ascension, which was phenomenal. What about all the rest of you? Like, what is your claim to fame? With sorry, the overlay's doing something weird right now. What is going
I mean,
on here?
I'll jump in as the relatively new person. I think what really changed like World of Darkness different to like where I've just been playing D&D before was like there's a lot of moments where it feels really real, and like the moment I can really pinpoint that is actually in our very brief run of breaking traditions when my character
There we go.
killed someone, and it felt so different than any other time. Like you kill someone in D&D, it has that fantasy hero thing versus like it felt so real, and that's when it definitely like it hit and changed that like, oh, this is a whole other beast, and I've really fell in love with World of Darkness after that.
Yeah,
For-
that's
'cause
always
for
been.
content-
Sorry, I was just gonna say that's always been my draw to it, is that it does feel so real, and so there's that lifelike catharsis to it that I've never gotten out of a D&D game necessarily. And that's not to say, D&D is bad or anything. I'm in Dragonlance right now on Dork Tales, so, and I love it, and it's a fun system, but it doesn't grab me the way World of Darkness does.
That's perfect.
For me, I didn't really get into World of Darkness or Chronicles of Darkness until like relatively recently. Like I think it was like five years ago, maybe. A couple of coworkers were bringing it up because I kept saying how I really hated playing fantasy games for a long time. Medieval fantasy isn't my favorite genre, and I always kept harping on it. And they were like, well, why don't you try World of Darkness or Chronicles of Darkness? And that sort of, I've always loved urban fantasy, and it was really a breath of fresh air. And like what everyone said before so far, like in my D&D games, it was like mechanics driven hex crawl or dungeon crawl or whatever. And with Chronicles, I was just able to have these stories where there's an emotional impact, there's the backstory linked into it. It didn't feel like my players were playing characters that just sort of were plopped into a world that already existed. They felt very integrated into it from the get-go.
Thanks. Chris, up to you.
I think something that really is interesting about World of Darkness, like kind of touching on what Robin was saying, is that I think it's actually a lot easier, even though you're playing like stereotypical monsters for a lot of them other than like mage, is that it's a lot easier to identify and to like step into it, because it's easier to imagine the setting so much more and make it allows for an easy transition to much more realistic characters and much more human and monstrous characters in their own ways, which Robin said, like the first time like her character killed somebody, it was just like, oh, Oh
Well, because
shit.
in D&D is
Like,
such a triumphant celebration, and in this case, what happened, for those of you who are aware of World of Darkness mechanics, it was a Mage the Ascension game, and they were in a shootout with with a couple of other mages. And was it a Forces effect that you used?
Yeah, I believe it was a forces effect.
And you rolled like 4 or 5 successes on your forces or something like that, which basically exploded the person. Like, she was trying to like just disable them, and or was it a gunshot? It was something, but basically she did double their health boxes in a single attack, and it was just one of those moments where the entire scene just stops, and it's like when you're a kid, right? And you're wrestling with your brother, you're fighting with your brother, and one of you accidentally falls on a nail, and it goes like through your hand. You're like that was the
It was-
emotional component.
And it was the mind effect that made his brain explode.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, right. Because I was
Yeah.
playing a mind.
It was mind and prime. You were using
Yeah.
mind and
Headache.
you were doing ag headache, and you did something like 8 levels of aggravated damage to his brain, and it was like, oh,
Yeah,
God.
I was
For
actually
those of you
pulling up my character sheet for that game to remember what spheres Heather had. Or Holly. It was Holly.
Oh, it was Holly, yeah.
Yeah. Mind and prime. Yup. It was definitely a mind effect. I definitely
And-
wanted to like shut them down, and it just exploded.
And there's something that you need to know. If you're coming to this from a D&D point of view, you're like, oh, 8 points of damage? Whatever, my fighter has 193 hit points. A normal human has like 7 health boxes, period. Maybe less on that particular day. And she did 8 points of the worst type of damage available to the brain.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did my psychic pain blast.
Yeah, that's what it was.
That's one of my rotes that I have, so I'm pretty sure that was that.
So,
And it was terrifying.
let's go around in a circle. Let's do this popcorn style. What is the best World of Darkness or Chronicles of Darkness game line? The difference between World of Darkness and Chronicles of Darkness is World of Darkness was like 1990s through early 2000s. They ended the game line with an apocalyptic event for each one of the game lines, and then they created a new rule set in the World of Darkness, the new World of Darkness, kind of like the new Coke, which became the Chronicles of Darkness at a later date during a rebrand when they decided to bring the old world back with the new 5th edition, which is a complicated issue we're not going to touch on. 5th edition, also known as, wow, they sure dressed Requiem up in a funny outfit. Fight me.
I refuse to get.
You have a
involved in that.
career. Don't do anything,
Don't
Travis.
do anything, Travis.
You might write for them. I know I'm blacklisted. But what's your favorite game, Travis? You've been playing World of Darkness longest, then probably me, and then either probably Chris or Jen next.
Yeah, what's my favorite? That's a hard question to answer. I have like 5 different answers. So
Favorite to run, favorite to play.
Well, I have about 5 different answers. It's a split. So Mage the Ascension will always hold a very dear place in my heart. It was the first World of Darkness game that I fully connected with. I ran a lot of Vampire and Werewolf, but Mage spoke to me in a way that the others did not. I ran a really long, like, this was back when we used to go to Denny's because you could get like a cup of coffee and smoke all night. And I ran like a 3-year long every Sunday Mage the Ascension campaign with the same group. It was 9 players.
That's just wild.
And yeah, everybody was a different tradition. And my brain would leak out of my head every night when we would finish. But it was a life altering experience, and it shaped in a lot of ways kind of the way that I view the world. If that makes sense. It was very appealing to me, the idea that your willpower and your deciding that something was true and believing in it hard enough could make it true. I think that that's an inspiring message. But also, I'm going to dip into a really obscure little corner of the World of Darkness and point out that Orpheus might very well be the perfect role-playing game. Just throwing that out there.
Orpheus. Long story short on Orpheus, there's a big backstory to why that game exists, but it is a 6-book series about ghost hunters that goes through what is equivalent to an entire action movie throughout that. It's structured beautifully.
Really kind of like a series of action movies. Like each book
Yeah, I
is kind
guess
of its
so.
own movie. And
But it's designed beautifully.
Yeah, it's just like as a complete role-playing game product, it's really hard to top. It's really good. I highly recommend everyone go check it out.
This is true. There was a question in the chat before we pass on. With all these being the thingening titles, is there a human the terrified? I mean, kinda. The Chronicles of Darkness core, you could play just humans with that, and then life is bad. But in Old World of Darkness, there are a couple that were put out that we're not going to talk about because they are ethnic slur the game.
That's only one.
Then there's Mafia, which is
Mafia.
another ethnic slur that came for Italian. So here, ethnic slur. Ethnic slur. It's me. Mafia.
There's the Hunters Hunted had mortal rules in it. The Sorcerer games had various incarnations of mortal rules.
I think
Project Twilight.
I think that's something that Chronicles of Darkness did really well, was really allowed and fleshed out mortal games. Mortal the Terrified would be a good way to just do the basic ones of those.
Mortal the Delicious.
Yeah, or that.
Because they also had the early Chronicles had the Mortals book, and they also had the Slashers book as well.
Oh,
which
yeah,
was-
Slashers.
And Mysterious Places and all of the urban horror stuff. That was
Yeah.
really, really cool. And I thought that was a really interesting way for them to develop that. There's also World of Darkness, I guess Chronicles of Darkness now, but World of Darkness Innocence, where you play kids in kind of like the beginning of It. And that
Yeah.
type of vibe. That was a really cool book, actually, that did not get nearly enough love. I think I have a copy of it somewhere around here. And because I used to have all of them, right? You pare them down over the years. So those are your favorites. I think that if I had to pick mine, Mage the Ascension would, of course, be the top of the heap. And if I had to pick a Chronicles of Darkness game, I think Changeling the Lost is the most inventive out of them, but Hunter the Vigil or Werewolf the Forsaken are probably my favorites, because I really like what they came up with for those. And I really did not like Werewolf the Apocalypse, and I fell in love with Werewolf the Forsaken's spin on the mythology, because werewolves have always been my favorite supernatural creature. I like the Incredible Hulk, so it's a werewolf story. What about Jen and Chris?
My favorite is 100% Mage Ascension out of anything, for many reasons that I have said a lot in everything, including my podcast. But I also have this sort of unending nostalgic love for Hunter the Reckoning and how ridiculous it is.
Holy
Just
the hand grenade.
It was my first World of Darkness game. Was Hunter the Reckoning. Was a one-shot Hunter the Reckoning game where we played 2 different groups, and we had like 10 people in a room playing 2 different one-shots at the same time.
We used to do back in our local gaming circle, we'd have tons of like vampire and mage games and all that. And we did a league play of Hunter the Vigil, were basically it was because in Hunter the Vigil you all were on HunterNet, right?
Hunter the
you could
Reckoning.
Oh, sorry, Hunter the Reckoning. Thank you. In Hunter the Reckoning, you were all on this like online message board that was like encrypted. Only hunters could get on it because of magic. And it would be someone would post on this Yahoo group that we had back in the day, and it was looking to run a game tonight. First 5 players that respond are in, and people would show up. You'd get 3 plot lines that you could follow. You'd pursue one of them, and that would be the game. And it would be like, oh, there's a rumor of a haunted mansion, or people are going missing on the Port Angeles ferry, or things like that. And we ran that for, I think, 23 episodes of that.
It was a long time, and we gave the people who ran games XP for their characters as well, because especially like Kelly would be running a lot of the games and wouldn't. So his character lasted the longest because he
I
wasn't playing.
survived. I think I lost both of my, or no, I survived the end game.
Yep, you did.
I did, because I had like 180 XP or something like that by the
Yeah,
end.
but there was one night when I think it was Dale ran a like 16-person hunter game, which was insane. We ran until like 6 a.m. and then I went to class because you could do that in university. But in any case, just nostalgic love for that game. And then my Chronicles pick would probably be Werewolf the Forsaken, because yeah, just a woo.
The mythology
I
is
love
so
my
cool.
woos.
I do need to interject for 1 second, just say how jealous I am and how I wanted desperately to. I wished I could have unrung the bell of everything I knew about the World of Darkness and played Hunter the Reckoning. Right, like if that's your first, it's a great game to introduce to the World of Darkness because you're not bogged down with a bunch of lore, which helps with that game. So
Yeah, it's true.
Man, I mean, that was the death knell, really, of the old World of Darkness, was just the amount of lore. I remember, because back when I was in it, and I guess Travis, when you were back in it, and Jen, like, our little era right there was still when, like, you'd go and buy something at the game store, you'd borrow it from your friend, or you'd find a totally legal PDF online that someone would manage to find, and you would go and hunt of lore. I remember when I discovered what was really happening with Saulot. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. It was 2002, and I'm sitting in my dorm room, like, and I'm like, oh, he's alive, because like the Salubri were my favorite clan. Spoiler! It's Saulot. He's always alive. You can't kill that guy. He's Kung Fu Panda. Like,
It's like Fortitude 10 plot device.
Yeah.
I survived my soul being eaten.
So, Chris, what's your favorite, bud?
Oh boy. I think the only one that hasn't in some way grabbed some attention for me, in both, that I've seen, like Chronicles and Old World of Darkness. I still refer to them as Old World and New World. Is Wraith actually never really grabbed me, even though I did like the idea that, like, I forget what the term for it was, but that another player was that, like,
the shadow guy
on your shoulder. Yeah,
the thing that makes Wraith unplayable.
Yeah.
See, but also it just sounds like such a great therapy tool. Like,
it's a wonderful game if you have the right 4 or 5 people, but it's really hard to find the right 4 or 5 people for that game.
But you always remember your first, and 26 years ago, I think it was, playing Vampire the Masquerade as like a little kid in grade 8 with some friends, only having played in that weird transition time between like D&D and Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, well, there was kind of like the two at the same time, and then going from something like that to something that was just so heavy. So Vampire the Masquerade, and especially just because of how terrible it is, like I've said to Kelly before, it's just like, if you're playing this game, you've already lost.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way of looking at Vampire, is that if you are playing it, you've lost.
Yeah, and it's so that one always has I have the most experience with that one, and it always has that special place in my heart. So if I have to pick one, it would be Vampire. A lot of the other settings for Old World of Darkness, it's very, some of them have just such interesting concepts. I know I've only really like looked at the book a little bit, like of the mechanics for it, because everyone always just said it was unplayable in the end of the world thing. But Demon the Fallen, just the
bullshit, it's totally playable. Totally
the
playable.
concept behind it just seems like the coolest thing ever. Like the idea of being like just a regular taxi driver, like in New York, who's also a mix with an ancient being that created fire and brought it to humanity or something, and like reconciling like two different things to make something new, and like going back and forth with like the different ideas and memories. But that just seems like such an amazing idea. And
Coming
yeah.
2024 to Dork Tales. Chris the Fallen. Warm Tub the Fallen.
Warm Tub the Fallen. I'll be in there with you, Tick Kelly.
All right, let's turn up the Warm Tub.
Crap. And for Chronicles, I do all of the systems sound really, really cool. I haven't had as much experience with it. Vampire, of course, like you're familiar. That's my one and the other. So for Chronicles, Vampire seems really cool. I love the idea of like an ageless kind of game and playing through like real world history from early on and to getting to experience that. And I love with games like that and with the World of Darkness games, I love all the conflicting information from different groups about like how history was and like who was this, or was this person this, or were they just a normal person, and being able to like kind of live through shadow history, and it's they're all great. They're all fantastic games. I could just keep going.
It's true. And while you're talking about shadow history, a quick shout out to the upcoming Vampire the Requiem for Rome 2nd edition that is going to be coming out real soon, folks. I can't tell you what's in it, but I can tell you I was supposed to write a Dark Era for it, and my Dark Era was a little long, and now it's an entire mini campaign at the back of the book that is like, it ended up being an extra 10,000 words of work by the end of it. Go read it. It's going to be great. It's set adjacent to the Year of Five Emperors, which if you have never read about a historical period in Rome, read about that one, because it's gonzo. It's just a lot of like, it's the equivalent
That
of
just
like,
came into my brain. I remember that. Oof.
yeah, people just walking into a room and slipping and falling on their swords type of thing. Like, "What? I'm emperor now. What? I'm emperor now." It's pretty great. So what about Demon is totally playable, by the way. It's totally playable.
Demon is totally playable. Absolutely.
We'll do it. Travis, do you remember, was there a rule somewhere? I remember reading it in one book that said that your faith capped your successes on invocation rolls. Is
Demon the Fallen?
Is that something I imagined in the middle of the night, or was that something I read on a forum?
It's not impossible. And again, not to be overly critical of it, but I think Demon the Fallen was probably the least well coordinated of its books with internal consistency regarding the rules. And I think part of the reason for that was because I think sometimes they were kind of breaking one of the World of Darkness's sort of cardinal design ethos, which was they were pulling in rules material from other sources to build the lores. And I don't know that they necessarily caught all of the sticky bits that created in editing. That was all before my time.
So you're allowed to say that.
In terms of like working. Yeah, I never actually worked at Wolf. So yeah, I guess I can talk a small amount of shit there, but no, it's not shit talking. It's the reality of the situation. Is I think that there were some contradictory rules in that regard, which is one of the reasons why I think people sometimes shake their fist at Demon and be like, "Why isn't it playable?" Like, because you don't house rule well. I don't know what to tell you.
I think a lot of people don't like. The one thing that I remember hearing again and again and again is that you could have a starting level character that could cause a tsunami to like wipe out a city.
Yeah,
and
totally.
I think a lot of people that I have played with when I was younger really, really shied away from anything that had that kind of power right off the bat. And so I don't actually know how true it is. I do own a physical copy of the book. A friend of mine gave it to me when I was moving out. An old roommate was just like, "Here, you'll appreciate this more than I will," and gave it to me, and I cried. I was like, "Oh my god!" It's this old, busted up book, but it was really sweet, and but I love the fluff behind it. Like it just seemed fantastic, and Demon the Descent is also really, really different and really cool. Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
I can
We
just
we
keep
still
going.
need to get through two additional favorites. So we're doing it by seniority. So Corbin, I think you've been playing slightly longer than Robin, so we'll finish with Robin if
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. I've got so as said before, like you always remember your first Chronicles or World of Darkness game line, and so the one that I love running the most is Demon the Descent. I think I know that I there's something about knowing it's your first game line where you know the rules front and back typically if you're lucky. So much so that I've had people come out to me and say, I never allow demons in my game if I run a multi-splat game because they're just so overpowered and so crazy. And I'm like, man, I know all the like tricks, all the things that they need to roll for compromise and all that stuff. Like they're not that bad. And like, and I've had people who are like power gamers come into my game being like, okay, I'm going to pull one over on Corbin. I'm like, no, you can't do that on me. I know the rules. But as far as play, oh yeah, go.
Well, they're not super broken. They're not sin eaters.
Sin eaters have changed a lot since first edition. I have a coworker who keeps telling me that the change from first to second was very drastic for him, and he couldn't really wrap his head around it. I'm not sure. I've only done the second edition stuff. But as far as playing a game, I've always loved Werewolf the Forsaken. I actually have my first werewolf character still running around in my West Marches open city style Chronicles of Darkness game I call Chronicles of Boston. I've been running that character, gender fluid werewolf Araka Mackenzie, for I think 3 years now since COVID started.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And last but absolutely not least, the baby mage, Robin.
Yes, I am.
Actually, after your seeking, you're not a baby mage. You're a real mage now. You passed the
true.
seeking.
I went through my first seeking and I passed, and I was super excited about that. But yeah, obviously, I think I would have to go through. Say my favorite is mage, because that is just a really fun. It's really fun to be like in a semi-normal world versus with like a tiny bit of magic, because it really feels like you're a normal person and you really can put yourself into a character and feel like special about it, and it feels really really unique and different from D&D of having magic. So I really like the person, like when you had us fill out that like 8-page survey before game started, it was like, holy, I've spent so much time with Darcy and I haven't even met her yet. Like I was searching,
and that's reduced from what he used to make us do.
Yeah, my Mage the Ascension LARP. So I ran a Mage the Ascension LARP, three different LARPs originally that had a 12-page character entry survey, and that's the pared down one that you did. That one was real good, though. We ended the world with 53 characters in play between 16 players. Multiple costume changes per episode. It was so good.
Does that include the Technocracy spinoff?
No, that does not. That was not. That's different continuity. We blew up the world because we ran Ascension, which was also Gehenna.
If I can interject for half a second here, I will say that out of all of the games that lend themselves well to a 12-page backstory, Mage the Ascension, I think, is probably the one that does the most, because who you are informs what you believe, and Mage is entirely about what you believe. You can play it without worrying about that, but it makes it much more challenging and much less fun for you and everybody else at the table if you don't have a really firm grasp of like what this person believes in.
Yeah, character's primary. So Robin, you're playing a lot of Mage the Ascension. Do you have another favorite, or a favorite that you'd like to try or that you'd like to run?
Well, I think I've been recently looking at a few books that I'm really excited to sink my teeth into.
That's the worst. That is the worst.
Sink your teeth into. So werewolf, right? Werewolf.
So werewolf. We can be werewolf.
Father proud, Robin.
I know.
A father wolf.
Yeah, Father Wolf. But yeah, no,
Bawu?
those have always been my favorite. Kelly's talking about his favorite supernatural. Those have always been my favorite supernatural creature too. And I've always been wanting to play one. So, that's something I'm looking into. Potentially reading about.
Werewolves are your favorite?
Yeah, werewolves.
I didn't know that. That's real cool.
Yeah.
I thought I was alone.
No, I love werewolves.
Awoo.
Werewolf was my favorite as well. Like growing up as a kid, you're like, oh yeah, werewolf or vampire, definitely werewolf for me.
Werewolves
Well,
are
I love dogs. So being able to like transform into like a supernatural dog. I don't like the werewolves that are like Harry Potter, what they did in that transformation where it looks like still human.
they're too skinny too. Like I like my
They're too
werewolves with some
skinny.
meat.
Yeah, beef. I want fur. That was more like more like the
boy.
Twilight werewolves. If this you're gonna pin where my generation where I am in the generations. I like the more wolfy werewolves because I like the woof. I like the thought of having like
Because
a
you're an
tail
animal
and
inside,
ears.
Robin.
I am an animal.
See, my early introduction to werewolves were American Werewolf in London and The Howling, and neither one of those things make a werewolf look like an attractive proposition to be.
Yeah. See, and like Travis, I'm a couple years younger than you, so mine was American Werewolf in Paris.
Oh, my deepest condolences.
But when I was like 10 or 12 or however old I was when I saw that, it was okay. It was pretty good. I mean, it wasn't dog soldiers.
Listen, the Eiffel Tower does this, right? Okay, so if you bungee jump off of something that does this, it's going to end fucking badly for you.
I don't know. I just remember Bush. I just remember Bush's like the mouth song. Your mouth.
Oh, yep.
Mouth.
When that came, oh my God, yes. Oh, I hear that.
Right?
I hear it.
You remember it. You remember.
Audio flashbacks.
But yeah, I'm really looking forward to trying some other systems because I love this like supernatural. I love the supernatural. The Ghost Hunter game that you ran for, was it Extra Life or a thing, Kelly? You wrote
it was for Onyx
that.
PathCon, and I ran Ghost Hunters, and we ran that introductory module. For it. And you know what? That is the only module that we haven't released on the main YouTube yet. I forgot about it. I found it about 3 months ago, and it's just in a folder.
Good. I absolutely adored that. And I think that was the first time that I'd experienced.
Oh, wait. No, you're talking about the Orpheus tie-in.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Where you died.
Yeah, I died. And spoilers, I came back. Kind of, but that was when I really felt like the health boxes, because it's like oh holy shit, you hit me for 3 like levels of lethal damage and there's no way to heal, and this is the start.
Well, yeah, because you were just ghost hunting and you stepped on a nail or something and it was like a point of lethal damage. Like it was rough, or you cut your arm on glass. And I think I
stepped on a rusty nail in the steps. The literal worst like injury led to Matt.
Yeah, because it was on the consent list. We went through the list and that wasn't on there.
Nope, I know it was terrible. I was fine with it. It was just terrible.
Right. So I have to ask everybody here, what is the next World of Darkness game you're going to run? Everybody. Jen, yours is easy because you're literally running Technocracy in a week and a half.
This is true. Yeah.
So
Technocracy, Mage the Ascension, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm running
that I'm running all of them at once.
I want to I want to give a little go back just for a brief moment. One that hasn't come up, Changeling.
Which one? Lost or Dreaming?
Both. Yes. Changeling's also a really, really cool game. I actually don't have too much experience with the Dreaming, but Changeling the Lost was a really interesting game to play. I did think that it was a really cool thing to do with. I love the contracts, like, and trying to like build contracts with people and like sell them shit, like, or like trade, right? Like, it just seemed so fey.
That's fair. And if we get another, we need 29 more patrons, and then we will get a game of the patron's choice or patron's choice, which could be Changeling the Lost. I'd run that.
I want to rock the vote and get you to do Princess the Hopeful. No.
Oh man, Princess the Hopeful is a fan game where you are a Sailor Moon-esque magical girl princess in a World of Darkness setting where everything is so depressing you want to die. Corbin, you need to look up a streamer friend of mine. I'm going to do a shout out to them right now. So the partner of one of the players in our Shards of Nirn game used to run that. There we go. And his name is Jordan. He is not a vampire, I promise, on Twitch. You need to go hit him up, and he would adore someone else who knows about that game. He's a World of Darkness fan. Go over and say I sent you.
Yeah.
Right, I remember him talking about that. I remember him hearing that. He talked about.
He won't shut up about it when you get him started, and I mean that in a loving way.
See, I'd love another episode of even if I'm not in it, but oops, all plague doctors.
Oops, all play doctors. Yep.
Oh my god.
So good.
Oops, all
God damn
plague
it.
doctors. Not World of Darkness, but it could be.
World of Darkness
Should
adjacent.
be.
Every time I see Kelly's charity stream of unprepared GM, and I'm like, man, there's so many games you could throw at him.
I want to see Kelly do Beast at some point.
Oh, see, okay. I really don't like Beast the Primordial, and I was one, like, I think I'm in that book as a playtester, actually, because that book had a really troubled history. Like, it went through a complete revision because it was, for a while, as far as I understand, the edition I had was Sociopath the Primordial, and it was it was a bit weird. But I don't like it as much as I like their antagonists. Because in Beast the Primordial, you generate, so you're playing a person who is a primordial beast in a human form. You're an edgelord basically, who generates these things around you called heroes, and heroes are Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. Like, they're people who could just like walk into a bar and be like, "There's a beast in a castle. Grab your shovels. Let's get him." And people will just like, "Oh, this is great," and it's the best concept. And you need to import them to other things besides Beast.
I just
Have
wanna
them just
play a
show up
dragon,
and
Kelly. I just want to play a dragon. One day.
Okay, you know what? I got one for you. Hold on.
I will say for heroes, I really like the idea of them leading groups of hunters, because their whole thing is putting the narrative onto the monster. So if a vampire doesn't have any banes except for like the normal ones, if he goes up and says, "You no longer have a reflection," you now no longer have a reflection, and it's
so
because
good.
he imparts that narrative onto them.
Yeah, that is
So-
really
grabbing
cool.
Kelly.
So, Chris, if you
Yeah.
want to play a dragon, don't forget that there is Scion Dragon.
Wait, what?
We just
You
yeah,
want to
we
be
just
a
got those books
You want to be the Dragonborn?
a
You
month
want to
ago.
be a Dragonborn? You want to be a dragon? Yeah, yeah.
I was unaware of this existence.
There's also.
I'm going to say some more controversial shit on your podcast, Kelly.
Hold on.
I'm
Where's
not-
that button? Where's that button?
Get it up.
Out of all of the Onyx Path, the story path lines, I'm probably the least fond of Scion. But I fucking love Dragon. It's so well done. It's so fun. It's such a great, beautiful addition to that world and take on that world. And I cannot recommend it highly enough. Scion just doesn't tickle my particular fancy. It's not nearly as controversial as I promised. I'm sorry, but
Okay, well, I still made it happen.
We
That's
fair.
promise controversy.
Bleep it in there.
Yeah, bleep
I
it.
have
I
not-
love Dragon. It's so good.
Everybody loves dragons. Like, that's why I went back to Dungeons and Dragons, actually, because like I run. It's really weird because like you look at Dork Tales, there's a D20 in the logo. I run tons of D&D. I'm not a D&D guy. Like, really, like I became a D&D guy when I became a streamer because, for one, it's really easy to run on stream. It has a built-in audience. People get really hyped about it. And I love fantasy. I really do love dragons and stuff. I don't love D&D mechanics. I don't love classes. What really brought me over to World of Darkness was the ability to be like, oh, hey, my character just got 10 experience. He's going to go to the gym and he's going to get stronger.
classless system is it's amazing. Like I love D&D. I'm a huge fan of the way and the streamlinedness of the 5e system.
Yeah, me
I
too
was a
now.
3.5 and a Pathfinder boy before that, and I definitely loved the optimization aspect. But I do think that 5e is a very smooth running system. That being said, a classless system allows, in my opinion, so much more ability to organically grow the character with it, and you're not like shoehorned into like as soon as you pick a class, like that kind of shoehorns you into a little bit of a role. You can vary that a little bit, but this is what you can and can't do is pretty much what it's saying in some ways. And all of the World of Darkness games, you don't really have that. Even though you're all a vampire, you're all a mage. Well, mages can do whatever they want anyway. But like you get the point. It's so much more organic, and I love that.
Yeah,
Well,
like
and
my for example, like Mage, my character Inner Seeking, she had some weird, like, basically time stuff that happened, and so because of that, I'm like, you know what? In this downtime and with the experience, she's going to learn a sphere of time just because of that organic experience that I had during the Seeking influenced her as a character, which is, I think it's fantastic to be able to be like, oh yeah, this happened to my character, so I want to be able to try and influence this in the future and this is something that you have the flexibility to do, which is just so great for like actual growth.
And if I can nerd out about Seekings in particular for a second.
Yeah.
In that 3-year-long mage game they were in, one of my players was playing a Verbena, and for the first half of the campaign, the character was just a slaughterhouse. She was just like, I'm going to figure out the most ridiculous ways I can kill people with life magic and do it to everyone that inconveniences me for the most part. And then she had a Seeking. It was like her RTA 5 Seeking or something like that. And she just
The big one. Yeah.
flubbed it, just flubbed the Seeking completely. And so I had her avatar was like, tell you what, I'll go ahead and open this door of enlightenment to you, but you're going to have to accept a geese now. And that geese is going to be that you can no longer harm anyone with magic. And that character had to cope with doing a complete 180 of how they viewed their relationship with the world because they couldn't hurt people with magic. They had promised their avatar they wouldn't hurt anyone with magic. And Seekings are a particular thing in that I think really enable those character building moments. So I had to nerd out for that for a second.
The thing with World of Darkness and Chronicles of Darkness I like is dealing through those trauma moments like that. Like I had a character, my werewolf character went into death rage in the middle of a negotiation because both sides had promised they wouldn't fight each other, and one side found out her death rage trigger and triggered it in the middle of the negotiation. And all the players were trying to fight around mine, and everyone escaped out, but they forgot that they left a ghoul NPC, one of their closest NPCs, as the getaway driver outside the club. So they came back and found my character huddled in the back of the limo, coughing up body parts. And my character had to spend a long time trying to make it up to the vampire whose ghoul I ate.
It's just a ghoul.
Yeah, except they were very attached to their ghouls.
Did you get him another?
That's
Just go
their
down to the pet
problem.
shop.
You ate his ghoul friend?
Yes.
Hey,
Oh,
you. You've got good taste.
Yeah, but I think that's a really unique part of World of Darkness is you get to analyze and experience, I think, a more mature game with dealing with things like trauma. Like D&D, you can inject horror into it, but it's not.
It's an uphill battle, though.
yeah, it's not natural versus like World of Darkness is naturally built for horror and putting in very traumatic things that can happen. And I think that's like, instead of trying to shoehorn that into D&D, it's like if you want that, look at a World of Darkness game because it is so good for trauma and horror. And it's just like, yes.
Catharsis.
Yes.
Oh, thank you very much for the tip, Random Equinox. Chris, you have a question or an answer, or
just to like expand on that, and I saw in the chat too, some of the World of Darkness games do allow for a lot more heavier subject matter and can have a lot of traumas like inherently built into them. And one of the things that I want to, Jen used the word I was going to use for it, catharsis. You can get a lot of catharsis out of the games, and I think I've mentioned it like way back when, but some people might not know I have struggled with depression and have had some struggles with that in my life. I was diagnosed with severe depression at one point, and I got to admit, like, therapy is always the best option, but some of the games that like some of the LARPs that Kelly ran and some of the games that were here, like, kind of allowed. It was a great way to touch on some of those subjects and helped me through looking through that character in those situations through my own eyes and think about things that I could bring up or talk about. And really, like, it's no replacement for therapy, and I just need to make sure that I put that out there. But it is a wonderful tool that has been incredibly helpful for me, and but also, you want to be careful with that, and make sure that you let people know what they're into if you are going to run one of these games for people, because you never know what their individual triggers are going to be. And I think for personally, to get the most out of some of these games, it has to be with a whole group of people that you trust, especially if you are going to go down the heavier subject matter. And that being said, though, I think it's an absolutely wonderful experience, and I loved it, and it's proved very helpful.
We love you. Travis, you have your hand up.
Yeah, two things. One, I want to echo just the sentiment about making sure that you're using safety tools, because it is there's a lot of potential peril for triggers and whatnot in the World of Darkness. But one of the things that I think separates it from D&D is the sense that in most of the worlds of Dungeons and Dragons, the world might be fucked up, but you can do something about it. And that's what makes it important, right? That's what makes you the hero. The World of Darkness is fucked up. There's nothing you can do about it. And that's what makes it important, right? Like the struggle against, like, it's the whole season 5 of Angel, for people that are of a certain age, dealt very well with the concept that that's why we fight, because it's a losing battle. We fight because it's important, because we know that we can't change the outcome. So the struggle against this horrible thing is what's important.
Yeah, what's the alternative, right?
Right.
Rolling
exactly.
over?
Right. Exactly. You go down swing. And that's one of the things for the World of Darkness, is there's something kind of nipping at your heels, ready to drag you into hell. It's inherent to what you are. With vampires, it's the beast. With mages, it's the struggle of paradox, regardless of where you fall on the 4-way split of the Ascension War. With werewolves, it's your rage. There's something with Wraith, it's the shadow. There's always something that's kind of trying to drag you into destruction. And I think that the struggle against that is very cathartic.
Absolutely. And I think there's something very, very valuable in that, because the more you can dive into that, the more you can pull out of it. Don't go too far. Don't go too. Use safety tools. We we really highly recommend that. We got D10s floating. Oh, I love it when that appears. Does anybody have any questions or anything that they want to ask about World of Darkness stuff? Or anybody, Corbin, do you want to say something? What do you got?
So one of the things that took me a long time to get my players to get into Chronicles or World of Darkness was just getting them over the fact that it was a modern setting. And there's so many people who are just like, it's a modern setting. It's something I want to think about something that's not the real world. But even if it's a modern setting, it's a bit fantastical and crazy, some of the stuff you're doing. I think the best way I got my players to actually transition from Dungeons and Dragons to Chronicles was I had them play a Mortals game where they went up against a demon from Demon the Descent, and they were all the people who made pacts with that demon, and the demon needed to collect a soul pack from one of them or something.
Oh no!
And yeah, and
Bye.
they played it. They played it out, and at the end of the session, I said, "Okay, so we played the Mortals. You saw what a demon was like. How would you like to play a demon?" And they all said
Nice.
yes, and I
Nice.
sold it on them.
Oh, that's a beautiful way to do it. Like, you could even just do like a little one shot of like for like, hey, let's just do a horror night on Halloween kind of thing, like with that, and being, oh, that's awesome. I like that.
That's exactly what I did. It was my Halloween game, was a one-shot, a mortal one-shot.
They're one of the most fun one-shot actually. I've ran a chronicle like this actually. The reason that I have done a lot of my writing actually is because of my buddy Sam Young, who, you know, Travis, from writing on various World of Darkness projects. I actually introduced him to the World of Darkness in a Sabat game that was a shovelhead adventure. And that was, so back in the old Vampire the Masquerade, you do have these mass embraces where the Sabat vampires would run around, they'd mass embrace a ton of people, like dozens of people, bludgeon them over the head, knock them unconscious, bury them, and whoever crawled their way to the surface popped out. And just so many great macabre ways to start campaigns or chronicles. God, I keep correcting the wrong way. And if I'm in a D&D game, I call it a chronicle.
We all know what you mean.
I know, but I feel like I'm like eating my own shoe, right? And Jen, you were in that game actually for a bit, because you were playing your Dark Ages character that they found in Montreal in a sarcophagus or something. You'd squirreled yourself away after the Dark Ages, and you woke up, and the first thing that happens, Jen's playing a Setite, who's been a French Setite who hid away in a coffin for 500 years after that campaign fell. The lid opens, she wakes up, and the first thing she does is go, turns to my friend different Chris, and goes, presents, and got like 9 successes on your entrancement roll.
So
he's like, well, I was gay, but I guess I belong to you now.
Yeah, he was my puppy dog for the rest of that. It was so good.
But she ended up going through the end of the world.
Yeah.
You ended up helping deliver Abel's skull to Cain in the finale.
Yeah.
And
that was wild.
But
but yeah,
she
was just
epic
like,
fucking game.
Where am I? What's going on? Oh, a person entrancement. You're mine now.
You can never control the World of Darkness. It will always control you. It'll always freak you. You can't win. As a storyteller, it'll always be a curveball. So we have a question from the chat. MB asks, what is your favorite controversial subject matter to play out or include in your World of Darkness games that you run? How dark do you like to go? I will start us off with that before I pass it on, because I want some people to ruminate. That depends. Is it broadcast or is it at a home game? If it is a home game, I will go as dark as the players want me to go. We will discuss it beforehand. On stream, it will be according to Twitch and YouTube's terms of services, and anything that I would like to have my face and voice attached to forever. We have touched on in several of our games sexual content, briefly, kind of as more of a gloss over. We've touched on SA, we've touched on abuse. There's been some animal abuse in games that's been described, all in a very roundabout way on stream. The worst thing that I have ever done to my players, and Jen, you were there for it, I ran 4 characters through an attempt to rescue someone from the Call in Mage the Ascension. Like they went into the otherworldly sphincter of doom that takes your soul and inverts it and turns you into the most horrifying creature in the world of darkness, which is a mage that has inverted their very core. And they went in to try to rescue somebody into an Afandi trap and then eventually into a call. And one of them survived. Sort of. One of them killed themselves. Two of them killed themselves, technically. And one of them turned. Two of them turned. No, two of them became Nefandi. That's right. One of them tried. And, oh god, it was awful. I actually, like, had nightmares after running that game. Like, I think, like, a week after I ran that game, I, like, had a crying session about it because it was so traumatic for me. And that's, like, old college stuff.
Unfortunately, like as you're stepping into these games, sometimes if you don't have, or even if you do have very clear expectations and boundaries in place, sometimes you have to be prepared to, if you want to go for a traumatic game, like what do you do after if something goes a little bit too far inadvertently, or if you discover something that might not be somebody might not have known it was something that can affect them a lot harder than they thought.
And the thing about this was back in, this is like 2007, 2008 maybe.
Yep, when there wasn't as much awareness.
Safety tools were not really a thing. Like, we leaned on each other, we talked stuff through, and we respected each other's opinions and things. But there was definitely a sense of, oh, come on, we're tough enough to take this. It's dark, right? Let's just. It was that James Gunn tweeting era.
It's just a game.
You know?
It's fine.
It's just a game. You know, so long as it doesn't, like, get real, right? But I think that at that point, we were still learning a lot of things about the way the world works and about the way brains work. And it's as real as you believe it is, unfortunately, for your brain. But anyway, that was my worst thing. You'll never see that on this channel because I like my job.
Yeah, just to bounce off of the like, we sometimes things got a little too much in games. The one I always remember, and this was more, it was too much for the observer we didn't know was around than the players.
I'm going by. I know this story.
You do. But you getting into this, like, screaming match with another
LARP, yeah.
character, not the player technically, because it was all in character.
Well, and we had our safety protocol where it worked out between each other, because we were like, okay, yeah, like, put up your hand if it's too extreme. We're just going to yell at each other and just going to, oh, you fuck you, blah, 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 right? Two werewolves going at it.
There was another person in the building who was listening and came and tried to rescue her from this big man who was yelling at her.
You know, who was dressed like a trucker at the time, because I was a trucker werewolf, basically. And she's like a very, very slight femme. And oh man, if you ever run a LARP, guys, do a building check. The person who was helping run the game didn't do a building check, and it almost turned into a fist fight. It was very, like, the dude was ready to jump me, and I was like in method acting, so I was ready to be jumped.
Yeah,
I was like, bring it.
It was a time.
It was not good. It was not good. Things that you do in your 20s that you regret. Yeah.
But yeah,
most of your 20s, most of my 20s.
Yeah, right. Yeah, in terms of how dark you go, I agree with you. If it's on stream, you know, it's according to terms of service, and as dark as your players kind of will let you go within that, or want to go, I should say, not just will let you go, but want how dark they want to go. Same with home games, it's collaborative. It's collaborative storytelling. So, you know, we're not storytellers and DMs and GMs to hurt our players. Right? So why go darker than they want to go?
Oh, sorry, no, go right ahead.
I was going to ask who else had one, so go ahead.
So for me, dark themes and controversial. So dark themes, you can go really dark without hitting something controversial, and that usually is what I tend to like to go for the most part. But I always like to give my players moral choices, or choices that will cause them to actually sit down and think in a very like deep way that they might not expect from other games. That being said, one thing that if someone ever asks for advice on how to bring a real world event, like a real world tragedy, into a game, I always say, like, try and not do that as much as you can. That being said, for my personal game, if it's your personal game, that's your choice to have that discussion with your players. For me, in my my Chronicles of Boston game I've been running since COVID started, a key aspect of the game was that COVID didn't exist in the setting.
Mm-hmm.
And my players knew that there was a random event that occurred that killed off half of the supernatural population of the city. And they eventually found out a year and a half later that there was a guy who worked for the World Health Organization in game who committed a ritual that killed off half of the supernaturals in the city to stop COVID from happening. And as far as like a controversial theme that happened, they actually had to sit down in game and ask, do we reverse the ritual that this guy did and bring back all the people who got taken away from the ritual being done, or do we, and in doing so, bring COVID back? And that was the big controversial subject I brought into game. But all my players knew it ahead of time that this is subject matter that we were going to be talking about.
And I don't think that's pulling any punches. It allows people to lean into it. Like if you go into a session and say, hey, in this session, we're going to be dealing with the topic of domestic violence. If everyone's comfortable with that, we're going to touch on that. And it might happen. Jen, you're playing a character, your relationship's real bad. Do you feel like exploring this plot line? Because you kind of hinted at it in some documents you sent me. And if you agree and everybody else at the table is cool with it, then everybody's prepped for it, right? Then it doesn't blindside them, because that's when that's when the triggering really occurs, is when it comes out of nowhere, because then you have a panic response. Robin.
Yeah, a great example of that, of going super dark, is the penultimate episode to the finale of book 1, where
of our mage game, yeah,
of our mage game, yeah, it
oh, Corbin hasn't seen it yet. Corbin,
you haven't seen it yet. I will stop.
Okay, he's just going.
He's just going. Go.
Okay. So
we're,
Corbin, I will put I will give you a thumbs up when we're okay. Okay.
So yeah, my Kelly basically
he's a fan
attacked
too.
me. Sneak attacked me with a person that I was going on a date with, and ended up being not who he says he was, and wanted me for a very dark ritual. And it was very much having a trust and safety of Kelly, knowing that he wouldn't cross lines. And he kind of forewarned me what happened and asked what would be okay with my character being done, and I gave my consent for what I knew, and it didn't wreck the impact of what happened, because it was great and terrifying, and it was a good time.
Yeah, so, and in that situation, beforehand, I constantly was like, are you okay with X? Are you okay with X? Are you sure? Are you sure? I'm very afraid of you being incorrect in your assumption, so please triple check. And you got to do that. You got to do that.
Yeah.
What about Travis, Corbin, Jen, Chris? Chris, you have your hand up.
Oh, I know we're getting close to the end of time.
Yeah, we got to wrap up in a sec, but
slightly different thing that I want to bring up. I think one of the most wonderful things about the World of Darkness games in general is just how morally ambiguous and gray they are. There is no right, there is no wrong, and Corbin was touching on it a lot, saying like those moral quandaries and choices, and so it's a much more they tend to be, I mean, even if you're playing like rage machines doing whatever you want, they still tend to be a lot more like there's consequences for your actions, both good and bad, and that's it's a much different style of game, and it's wonderful. Like they're all wonderful in their own way, at least all the ones that I've played.
Thanks. Travis.
I just wanted to real quick before we bounce out, just touch on the like dark material. I think sometimes people forget some of the very, very basic things. Like to my mind, there are things that are super over the top and super, profoundly disturbing and whatnot. But honestly, some of the darkest shit and some of the shit that I am the most careful around running is your vampire feeding. That can go horribly wrong. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot that can become very disturbing about that. Or like in Wraith, one of the setting elements is everything in Wraith is made from souls. So like introducing that to a player by walking them over to a forge and being like, so here's your new job. And somebody's like screaming and being thrown into the forge, things like that stuff. These things that could become mundane background noise in the game if you don't shine a light on them.
Fair. Jen, why don't you wrap us up here and then we'll do outros.
Yeah. Basically, I just had one really last quick point to make, which was dark doesn't need to mean gratuitous as well. You can do a lot with glossing over stuff and still have that dark, horrific feeling from it.
Yeah.
So
Because your mind's going to fill in the gaps way better. Like,
really is.
Yeah, that's
and
something you don't want to show showing sometimes ruins the magic. I tend to not give my monsters names or even like give the players a good description of them if it's in the darkness, and that adds a lot more than if I say, oh, there's a werewolf that's walking down the corridor at you.
Yeah, it's a difference between sexy and pornographic, right? Like sexy allows you to fill in the gaps with what you think is good. The other thing is just like, yep, that is what it is. That is, you're really relishing every detail and pore, aren't you? But enough about Clan Zamisi. I think it's time to wrap. Jen, why don't you start us? We'll go in a big circle on our way out.
Sounds
Who are you?
good.
Where you been?
So I'm Jen. I've been Jen. I will forever be Jen. And you can find me here at Dork Tales as Achille Daniels on Twitch or the Discord. Or you can find me with Paradox, a Mage of the Ascension podcast.
Which you should all go listen to. It is an amazing podcast. That
And
is
you can
right
find
there.
it wherever you can listen to podcasts, including Apple now, because they finally fixed it.
That is fantastic. Over to Travis.
Hi, I'm Travis. Pronouns are he, they. You can find me everywhere online at Travis Leg, except for here on Twitch, where I am Plastic Age Plays. Usually you find me over at the Onyx Path Twitch running games. And I write stuff. Google me, I guess. I don't know. There's look for my name at Drive Through RPG. You'll find a lot of stuff.
It's really true. Hey, I'm on a couple of those too, so you should definitely do that at the same time. Did something just happen to my ping? Sorry, something. Oh, sorry, my computer's being weird. One moment, please. I gotta refresh something.
All right. Well,
there we go.
Kelly's not here, so
I'm back.
Everyone gets 50 experience.
Everybody gets. I was gonna give you 100, so fine, Chris.
Oh.
All right. So back to Corbin. Corbin, you're muted.
Sorry, all that drama threw me off. Sorry, I'm Corbin, the Awkward GM. You can find me on YouTube and on Twitter at Awkward GM. And I'll be on Onyx Path on Mondays at 5 p.m. Onyx Path Twitch at 5 p.m. doing the Beginner's Guide episodes. Right now we're doing They Came From series.
It's such a good game, guys. You should really watch it. Up to Robin.
Hi, I'm Robin. She, her pronouns. You can find me on Dork Tales, mostly. Specifically, things World of Darkness related. next Saturday is when book 2 comes. So, I have a new costume for that game, and I'm so excited to start that out. So, come see the doves next Saturday, World of Darkness. Yeah, this has been great.
Over to Chris.
Hello, I'm Chris. Go by Digiblog all over the place. Great to be included in this one, and thanks for everyone sharing their thoughts. And you can find me at Dork Tales. And sorry, I ramble. I'm tired.
And Dork Tales.
And Dork Tales.
And I'm Kelly. You see in him, and I'm the host here at Dork Tales. If you're watching this right now, thank you for being here. A quick reminder, the Dork Tales Expo is a fundraiser for everything that we do here, for everything from costumes to role-playing games to better dice to better music. If you like what we do here, please throw a couple bucks in the jar down below. You can give it to us via the Stream Elements tip option down there over on Ko-fi, or you can join our Patreon, which gets you access to a ton of additional games, including a bunch of World of Darkness content, such as a Hunter the Vigil game that I just recorded episode 2 of the other night, Mage the Ascension, the Technocracy, down there. On Tuesday, I'm recording the first episode of Demon the Descent, and very soon, Star Trek Adventures, which isn't World of Darkness, but, is pretty great.
And the other one, the other game.
Oh, and Strixhaven?
And Strixhaven and Radiant Citadel.
And Radiant Citadel.
And Technocracy.
He did
Panic at the Citadel.
Oh, he did say.
Panic at the Citadel, because Panic at the Citadel starts tomorrow, technically, with Session 0 here around 4 p.m. Pacific. You definitely want to be there so you can look at Jen's art some more and just be like, oh,
Yeah,
it's
every
so
time-
I'm
Every time
gonna
you mention
have
the
a problem.
Technocracy, my heart swells 3 sizes.
Yeah, it is. That's not the only thing that's swelling in that game. Wait, no, yeah, it is. It's just me drugging people with llamas laced with cocaine.
I think
Yeah,
you
it's
might need to
great.
report to room 101 for some conditioning, Kelly.
I've already been there. You need to meet my character.
I
You
mean,
said
He's
Demon
great.
the Descent? Where's
There may
this?
Demon the Descent's coming out on the Patreon, and then it'll be public release in 3 months.
Okay.
So yeah, it's gonna be worth it. It's got a great cast. But that's gonna be it for us. We're gonna be back in about 13 minutes with how to win at D&D and other tabletop role-playing games. So I hope you come and join us for that. Panelists, thank you so much for being here. May your trench coats be dope as hell and your katanas be sharp. Let's head away from the world of darkness. Good night, everybody. Woo! There's no better outro I could give.